order. Mr. Spencer, could you please take roll?
Ms. Taranto.
Here.
Ms. Knapp.
Here.
Mr. Quigley.
Here.
And let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to start the meeting tonight with the swearing in of Fire Chief Matt Noble. Chief Noble, if you please come forward, along with your family. For those in the audience that do not know, our fire chief just recently retired, and his assistant chief, who has now just become the chief, will be sworn in tonight.
Okay, Chief, raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Matthew G. Noble, do solemnly swear that I will support.
I, Matthew G. Noble, do solemnly swear I will support
The Constitution of the United States.
the Constitution of the United States,
The Constitution of the State of Ohio.
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
The rules, regulations, and duties of the Orange Township Fire Department.
the rules, the regulations, and the duties of the Orange Township Fire Department,
Orange Township in Delaware County.
Orange Township in Delaware County,
And the State of Ohio.
and the State of Ohio
During my continuance in office.
during my continuance in office.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Nice, excellent. But not yet.
Okay, ready? Smile. Good.
One more. Chief Stewart, would you please?
I'll do another one too. All right.
We have another special presentation at this time. If we could have Junior Troop 2716, the Olentangy Service Unit, please come forward.
Junior Troop 2716, and we are in the Olentangy Service Unit, and we are working on our Bronze Award project, and everybody's going to have a little speaking part.
For our Bronze Award project, we are doing a rain barrel workshop. The Girl Scouts Bronze Award is the highest award a junior scout, a junior Girl Scout can achieve. For service to the community.
We are doing this because rain barrels help the environment by conserving water. Also, Franklin County started doing this and we wanted to bring it to Delaware.
We are hosting a rain barrel workshop with the Rain Brothers on Saturday, April 19th at Orange Township Hall.
Anyone is allowed to come, but you must pre-order by April 5th.
We've shared these registration forms with the Girl Scouts, our schools, and our neighbors. There are forms here at the Orange Township Hall.
The color choices are moss, charcoal, terracotta, and granite.
You can get a rain barrel from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., or you can stay for a workshop that's at 9:30 a.m.
Remember that anyone in our community can participate. Tell your neighbors and friends. We need to sell 10 rain barrel kits to reach our goal.
Any questions?
You're building rain barrels for the hall, is that what you're doing?
It's a rain barrel workshop. So if you want a rain barrel for your home, you can pre-order one and then come here to learn about it, receive all the parts, and set it up in your house. Okay.
Thank you.
Now it's time for public comment. If anyone would like to speak, if you could please come forward, state your name and address for anything that is not already on the agenda. Is there anybody who would like to come forward? Great, we'll move on then to, I'm sorry?
Man, shot back here.
This is in follow-up to the message that I sent you last week regarding the township investments. This is just a sample of what perhaps could be done with some of the money that's not immediately needed. Didn't have a copy of the investment policy statement, so anyway, I just picked AAA government agency bonds. And there's been a lot of discussion about how to structure it, what to do, how far to go out, and the risks involved. Which is, like I said, to have an opportunity to present an alternative idea for the funds. And didn't know if you had any questions about my email or about this.
Do you want to reiterate what you said in your email?
Well, I mean, ultimately, I came to the township in 2008 when rates were still low. We were not receiving very much interest. I had preliminary discussions with Mr. Spitzer. The previous board dismissed it and did not want to do anything with it. So fast forward 6 years and a whole lot of interest that's been left on the table. So I know that Mr. Spitzer is interested in trying to do a little bit more with the money. I think the statute has parameters set up as far as what you can invest in. It's pretty cut and dry. And I think additionally the township had adopted a resolution that further created an investment committee to approve it. Just to say, you can structure a portfolio to match obligations as they come due. So you can have, for instance, a bond that's going to come due, a month or two before, have funds available to fund a particular thing. But there's no reason to have it sitting in something that's completely liquid because you don't get that much interest for it. So if you have, again, if you match the obligations to the bonds and you can ladder those things out as they come due, you're going to certainly do a lot better as far as how much interest you can earn. I think from a competitive standpoint, our vast resources are going to do far better than any local or regional bank as far as access to bonds. I was able to go through and pick from about 3,500 bond issuances. That's just AAA.
Probably, Mr. Spitzer, it's something we want to call you and set up an appointment for and possibly review some of that?
And we've spoken over the phone, and Matt, Mr. Scheibeck and I can have further discussions and bring it to the board to possibly diversify. I know we have some tied up with Fifth Third Securities, but that still leaves some on the table that Mr. Scheibeck could potentially spread that ladder out to gain the highest yield on what we have remaining. And I would be careful about characterizing as free money or stuff that's not allocated, but certainly with the proper ladder structure, as you've indicated here today, can ladder that so that the maturity dates hit when we need the money, when we need to liquidate it for projects or budgetary reasons.
Well, Mr. Scheibeck, I did have one question. In your email, you said that you believe that the township has lost the opportunity to earn easily several $100,000 in interest over what period of time? Since 2008?
And yeah, since 2008, I stopped tracking it.
That one was when the recession hit, correct, and everything just dropped down, all the interest rates at that time?
No, the interest rates were still low at that time. Okay, so there was still a huge opportunity, but there was still a great opportunity because you were able to, again, if you pinned those obligations that you knew were coming due and you pinned them to a particular bond issuance. I mean, you were talking about 2.5 or 3% on a bond that's coming due now that you're paying a bill, and so instead of that, we got a third of that. You know, we got if not even 1%.
Well, there were still some legal questions that had to be resolved, and there were some questions that went to the auditor and various things that had to be investigated to make sure that we weren't doing anything.
Well, no, he's properly asserting the government agency bonds, and let's provide some history here before that attempt. In 2008, John Cassidy was on the board, restructured the investment policy to restrict any interim fund investments, which Mr. Scheibeck and I had several conversations over the year trying to move that investment policy into a structure that would allow us to invest in interim funds. And Mr. Scheibeck can attest to that. So with the new board, we were able to accomplish that in 2011. And we did go through some legalities with brokered CDs, and we finally got that on the table and we were able to invest.
Yeah, I mean, it's been in statute what you're able to do.
Well, we were looking to get the best interest out of it. That's the reason why the question came up with the brokered CDs. We wanted to find more about it because it was out there. It was a question. We want to get our best bang for the buck for more what it comes down to. That's the reason why we went through that process to investigate that.
And there was some instability.
Right.
There was some instability with the market in 2008 and whatnot, and the board was apprehensive about moving forward with investments at that time. And then there were some other historical time points with failures of levies and things like that that held the process up further. But you know, I think.
Well, here's the thing that I would caution you as far as the turmoil in the market and where interest rates are and where they are now. You can always look in the rearview mirror. It's just like if you talk to an individual investor, hindsight's 20/20. But the fact of the matter is, you could have invested money at 3% in the past 6 years or more, and have that tied to obligations that came due. And we're talking about 3 pots of money: immediate, you can't touch; money that's coming due in the next 18 months, and then beyond. And there was a great deal of money that could have been invested in that amount of time. As far as instability in the market, it doesn't matter. The investment policy statement is set by statute. It's what you can invest in. You buy a bond and you hold it till the end, you get your money back, period. So it doesn't matter. You buy a bond that's worth $1 million and the market goes up and down and it's worth less, and at the end of the day, at the end of the period, you get your $1 million plus the interest. So
I understand that, but we also, as you mentioned too, a levy failure and other things that had factors into investment as well. That money's been tied up that we couldn't use. So I mean, there's a lot of factors in there. I get what you're saying now. Moving forward, that's what we're doing now. Right. We did modify the investment policy to open it up to do a little more, so we can do that. So moving forward, but I think to Mr. Spitzer's point, there was some history behind that statement that you made that goes a little bit deeper than what is being presented there. So, but moving forward,
I don't understand what you mean.
I'm just saying that there's a lot of things that
The
took place,
investment.
transpired over the
He's talking
years.
about the
The
investment.
question came up about reason why it wasn't invested back in 2008. There's a lot that transpired over those years.
What was
It's
it?
irrelevant now. The point is that we just went through it. The point is that you're bringing a good thing forward for us to look at. Mr. Spitzer's going to sit down with you, and we'll look at diversifying that. I don't have an issue with that.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Am I the only person that needs to speak? Is there anyone else? Because I'd like to be last.
So anybody else that wanted to come forward?
You mean you're all going to listen to me?
Would you just state your name and address, please?
Okay. My name is Joyce Dimovich. I live in Upper Arlington. 50 years ago, my father came from Yugoslavia at 24, and I'll just let you look at these and pass it down. And purchased 12 acres of land facing Lewis Center Road at the intersection of North Road. And he wanted to build his village. We went to the Greek church, and it was too far away for all the family to move up here because everyone was in the restaurant business. My parents on State Street, and my aunt and uncle had the Clintondale Bakery. And they came to America to make their fortune, and they did. They worked extremely hard. The reason why I'm here today is I'm sort of pleading for your help. Out of desperation, I'm embarrassed to ask. I have nothing to lose. I have to try. In 2004, I lost all my family. I was caregiver 20 years for my family, 3 members and 2 houses, helping Mom manage the a la carte restaurant, and going to college and finishing 2 years at Ohio State. And my father and brother were ill their whole lives, and my mother supported us. She worked 48 hours a day. She worked 10 days a week, driving up and down High Street every day, doing the cooking, even on Sundays. 3 entrees, 3 desserts. She loved to cook, and we had the best top 10 restaurant in Columbus, 28 years, the a la carte. My brother's wine collection, and people really appreciated the quality that we had years ago, and other immigrants that came to Columbus. We don't have that now in Columbus. We educated a lot of people about food, European food, spices, and so Mother and I prepared. I lived away in Boston, 24 years in London, England, and I came back in 1980, and I wanted to get an education. I didn't get one, and I finished 2 years, 3.5. I had a house, everything, saved money, $180,000. Mother owned 4 properties. The Delaware Lewis Center property, 12 acres. The house in Worthington that I talked her into buying. All of these were purchased 50 years ago. The house in Worthington was only $68,000. And then Mother, they retired. They bought a house restaurant on 9th and High on campus, and the restaurant was on the first floor. We lived on the second, and Mom put an apartment on the top floor. And that's how you save money. You work, live, and get rent, and just work night and day. and mother taught me that, and I worked a little bit too much. So being the caregiver took a toll on me physically, and also being, well, there's other things. I had 3 operations just from stress the last 5 years, tripping over the broom sweeper, tonsils, sinuses. So when everyone passed away, I wanted to sell the house, and I wanted to find my dream home. And that was in Upper Arlington, a condo. I had cancer when I was young and 11 operations through my life. And I never had my own home. I was involved with jet setters too. So it was okay. I went to purchase my condo, and I had these properties, and it was before the economy failed, and I had a buyer for the Lewis Center property for $60,000 an acre when Planned Community was started developing, and they were asking $80,000 an acre. And Mom and I deserved it. I treated her like a queen, vacations, everything that she never was able to do. And we had a wonderful time. But I sacrificed my lifetime and didn't get to finish all the things I wanted to do. So I couldn't get a loan at any bank or mortgage loan offices. I just had 5 root canals. And they turned me down because I hadn't had a job in 15 years. Working as a caregiver and working for your family doesn't count. My mother even didn't give me a paycheck. And that's how naive we were. We didn't have attorneys. She trusted people. They helped her. She helped them. It was fine. It's this last 15, 20 years that everybody's changed, and more greed and dishonesty in the world. Chase changed my loan. It took me 6 years to figure out what Chase did to me. I was by myself for the first time in my life. Chase changed my loan. My brother took me to this branch because they gave loans out easily. In 1 week, I told him George said 50,000, and I said, only 50,000? Because that's all. I just want to buy this condo, to put down on this condo, my dream home. Am I doing the right thing? Please don't let me lose my money. Ohio State University took our rental property away by eminent domain 2 years before Mom passed away, and we were living on that $3,400 a month. She had that for 40 years. And that hurt me because I had used my savings to support us. And he said, you'll be fine. I had the buyers for both properties. And he said, you'll be fine. You'll sell properties and pay off your condo. I left. They called me and back in 1 week, and they were just going so fast for the closing at Chicago Title. And I was by myself, and a realtor that didn't care about me, a friend of a friend, and I thought he was going to look out for me. They just put the papers in front of you, sign this, initial this. I was really sad. I had just gone through 5 funerals, including my mother, in a year and a half. So things were going in one ear and out the other, and I was barely hanging on, but you never give up. And I thought, I didn't know banks were dishonest. That's how naive I am. And at the end, she asked me, Joyce, do you understand what you're signing? And I said, no. And again, I said, I'm trusting you to not lose my money. I'm trusting all of you. I want to pay off my condo the minute either property sold. They didn't do it. They put $200,000 in my checking account. They put it, to this day, no one could figure out. We still can't. They wouldn't explain anything to me or anyone. They put it on my mother's house. I was worried about doing a lien on the property in Delaware. Even now, I don't know if there's a lien. I'm behind on my taxes, at least $15,000. I don't know if it's more. They put $2,000 in my checking account, and 1 week it took it out and gave it to somebody to manage. I didn't know it. I was ill, trying to survive, trying to find a job. I was making my mortgage payments for 4 years, and the only time I knew something was wrong was when Sandra K. called me in and said that my parents' home sold for $328,000. I'm going to try to go faster. We have become friends, and there's a situation. I'm thinking about suing Chase Bank. I have a legitimate case of predatory lending, and Fannie Mae told me fraud. I couldn't get anyone to help me, talk to me, explain to me. I didn't have that large sum of money to hire an attorney. They just wanted money. Okay, jump forward. That's my situation with that. What I'm here today is to see if there's any way you can help me with my property. I feel I'm so tired of people taking advantage of my family and me for years. They worked so hard, and they would take it by eminent domain. Mom had a leasing for the property. She wasn't supposed to pay the property tax. She paid $40,000. Nobody said anything to her. The lawyer, nobody. Just a whole bunch of things. Our house burned, the insurance companies, everybody. They always had valuable properties, and everybody wants to take it from us. They write to us, take photographs of the house. They call us about the land. I've got letters galore. It's valuable. I had a buyer for $60,000 an acre in 2002. I told Mom, please, Mom, don't sell it. I need something for me, my old age, because she was very generous. She helped everybody in Columbus. $25,000, $80,000, but she didn't think about me. So now I'm being evicted by Chase. Well, they couldn't sell it, they auctioned it, and Fannie Mae bought it for $170,000. I'm being evicted the 26th in 2 weeks. I'm finding another attorney. We went to court, and now this next step, if I can arrange it and if it's worthwhile, is to sue Chase Bank. I've been told I have a legitimate case of predatory lending and fraud by Chase employees, 28 years, and even a mortgage loan officer that works at the corporate office in Polaris. And he said, I was looking for a less expensive house. And he said, Joyce, we talked for 2 hours. He said, I hate to tell you, but he works there. And he said, you have a legitimate case. Your problem is your conversations aren't recorded. So I'm fighting to the end. I paid mortgage payments till 2009, but then I couldn't walk. I I had to quit working. I was told I had to have 4 surgeries, and they thought my cancer was back. And I kept trying to communicate with them. They wouldn't, and even my neighbor's a retired minister, attorney first minister from Bexley, he read the contract. If he had just said one sentence, Joyce, they changed your loan from 50 to 200,000. Even in that 7 months, the house sold. Okay, I lost a little bit. Why didn't they pay off my condo? They didn't communicate with me at all. And I was treated, harassed, everything. This Delaware property is all I have left. Unless I win the case, sue and chase it, and I'm going to have one big party and you're all invited. But I doubt it if I will. I have a lot of interested buyers, but because there aren't sewers, they don't want to buy the land. And this has been going on for 40 years. And when I came back in 1980, Mom and I would drive up here and check on, talk to the engineer and the auditor, and they know me real well. And we would always check on the property. And 20 years ago, the engineer said once the sewers reached the west side of High Street, we could connect to the sewers. Okay, my mom said I had a crash course. When the house burned, she said, you've got to take over everything. I've had a crash course these 10 years. I've learned a lot. What people say doesn't always come true. And you can't build your hopes on something that hasn't happened yet. But I received a letter in the mail from the engineer's office a year ago stating that you're going to be continuing the work on Lewis Center Road, that you're going to widen and straighten Lewis Center Road, cross over railroad tracks, so it's not an S shape. And right at my corner intersection, North Road, and the edge of my, thinking anymore, east, how do you say, northeast corner of my property, southeast corner of my property, they're going to dig up the road, widen it, and they're going to build a viaduct that's going to go over to help relieve the congestion of all the traffic. There's one gentleman behind us that owns 180 acres, Curdler. The grandfather must have farmed. I think he passed away and left it to the children. They're holding off on that land. They're hurting us that want to sell our land. The lady behind me, Cinda Rossfield in Cincinnati, 7 years ago, I tried to get everybody together and the neighbor next to me to sell our land together. A larger portion it would be easier to sell. And I'm getting really interested buyers with good projects for the community. And, but I'm going to be 69 in April, and this is my last piece of property. I don't want to lose it. I'm going to be on the streets in 2 weeks, and everything moved out. I don't have any place to go, no money. I've been on food stamps, Meals on Wheels. Couldn't walk for 3 years. To have a good life, honest life for 62 years, and to end up like this and my government won't help me, they tell me I have too much assets. And I said, what are you going to do? Wait for me to lose everything and be on the street and then you're going to help me? You know what they do? They put you in a home with other people struggling, dementia, poor, uneducated, mostly not bad people, but not the way I wanted to live my life, not the way I planned it. So I was wondering, I called and I was talking about if there was, the sewers are across the street. Now I did the church a favor by letting them hook up to my water. They say I don't have water, but I think I do, because Mom gave them permission to put water on the land. There's a fire hydrant. I don't know, maybe it's just a fire hydrant. You're already going to tear up that road. And Catty Corner, there are sewers, the Duffy homes. Everything has already built up. It's just Kerbler is not developing his land. It's like a block. They're young. They can wait another 10 years. I think they want to build condominiums, and that's what they told me years ago. They're waiting for you to put sewers in so they don't have to pay for it, and they're going to put all condos.
Ms. Dimovich, Lewis Center is actually a county road, and the township doesn't have anything to do with the sewers. And I really feel for you in your plight. I'm so sorry. I wish there was something that we could do, but the township actually has nothing to do with what you need. We have no jurisdiction over that. There's nothing.
Why did you tell me?
Well, I wasn't sure where you were going with what you were saying.
I was trying to see if they could put the drain pipe, they're going to have the road torn up. If they could just put the drain pipe through the road to the corner lot so that whoever purchased my land, they can hook up to the sewer. There's a natural water runoff.
Ms. Hugh, do you think that you could help Ms. Dimovich and give her the information?
And meet with me someday, I can sit with you, but it would probably be better for you to call the county engineer's office and sit with them on what you're looking for. The Lewis Center improvements are done by the county. It is the developer's obligation to bring sewer and water and all the utilities and infrastructure improvements to a property when it's improved. So the township or the county would do those improvements for you.
But you don't make the final decision on whether or not to do it?
The township approves zoning to do that with a zoning application.
And then I was thinking about selling the land to you. You wanted to buy it years ago to do a metropolitan park. The two buyers I have now wants to build a school for children, like handicapped or something. And the other lady wants to put in a swimming pool, which would be great for the kids.
Ms. Hugh can help you with that also, but she can get you the name and number of someone to contact, and then she would certainly take your information about that land. That would be wonderful. I really am sorry.
And then I would, if you would help me, I would donate it to you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry I bothered you.
You haven't wasted any time. You haven't wasted anybody's time, don't worry.
Okay.
You did not waste anybody's time here, and we appreciate you coming.
Oh, thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak before we move on?
Okay, I'll wait.
Trustees are moving a little fast. Is there any additions or corrections to the current agenda?
No.
Mr. President?
No.
Moving on to approval of the minutes from March 3rd. Any changes?
I think the only question I had is on page 1. This is 5% down by the bottom, would have actually been 10%.
I have that circled. I know the answer is 10%. I'm just not sure. I think you said 5% the first year, then 10% the second year.
I believe I did.
Which one? Under health insurance.
It's the last sentence under this law.
Yep.
It was,
10%.
There was a, yeah.
That's where we were at.
10%. Got it.
Okay. That's all I had.
Oh, how would we correct that then? Just from there, we just change.
It's just been corrected.
10%.
Correct.
I make a motion to approve the March 3rd, 2014 regular trustee meeting minutes with changes from 5 to 10% on page 1, the bottom of the possible discussion and action regarding insurance renewal paragraph.
Wait, I'm sorry. We've never done resolutions for corrections, just.
I would just say as modified.
As modified.
Oh, sorry, okay.
I was just stating the modification.
Okay, sorry, thank you.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes. Zoning report, if anybody's interested in what's happening in zoning, we do have some papers on the table over there. Moving on to the maintenance report, Ms. Hugh.
First item on their maintenance is discussion and possible action regarding mailbox replacement. I think some other people are looking at this as well because we had tied into some email strings with people discussing it. And we've collected a number of different responses. Most are in support of some type of a limit. I've provided the board with not only copies of all the individual emails with all the detail, but a summary basically of what the individual places are doing, and we're looking at reimbursements from $25 to $35 to $75, $50.
75 was the highest rate.
Yeah, I'm still proposing that we match something similar to what Liberty is doing, which is a maximum of 150. That gives us the ability to replace the a mailbox structure with something that's similar to this, which is fairly equal to what's in people's homes of a lot of the neighborhoods. Now, obviously, if they don't have this much detail, we wouldn't replace this much detail, but we could replace up to this. And then in some of the neighborhoods where they just have excessive mailboxes, they would just receive a check if that's what they wanted. But I do think that, especially in some of the neighborhoods, it's kind of like the roads. Everything is aging, everything is getting to a certain point, and you know, the last thing I think that people repair is their mailbox. They may touch it every day, but as long as there's mail in it, it's functioning. Unfortunately, that as it deteriorates, it can't withstand the snow coming off the snowplow. Liability-wise, the township is not responsible to replace those, but the policy has been, if we can do it, we do. But I think that we're getting to a point where we're just going to obligate ourselves for more than what we can actually handle, both from a dollar amount and a timing amount. Basically, what I'm proposing is what we have been doing since I got here. A mailbox is down. If we physically hit it, we replace it, no questions asked. It's 100% of whatever it is, because it's an accident. It's where we are liable to replace it. If it is a snow damage effect, where you can't see the blade hit the mailbox or anything, then we go out and evaluate. And if it was not in good repair to begin with, if it had been weed whacked around the bottom to a toothpick, it already had multiple nails on it, it was already tied down and strung up, and had been knocked down before, we tell them it's the owner's responsibility. Other than that, we do the best we can to either re-erect it, or if we need to replace the mailbox.
Have we talked to anybody in insurance yet?
Can you identify yourself, please, your name and address?
Bill Weevil, 9170 Branford Street. Before we legislate away liability, have we talked to anybody in the insurance industry or anybody with our liability insurance that deals with our township?
I actually attended a seminar at the...
that wasn't the question I asked.
Okay.
Because I know you attended a seminar.
What?
But,
Mr. Weevil,
yeah.
let her explain her.
Okay.
And at that seminar was an attorney that was representative of all the townships in Ohio, and they were providing guidance on what the township should be doing. Like I mentioned, if you physically hit the mailbox with any township vehicle, right, you're liable. It is an accident. You caused that accident, you hit that piece. There's an argument that some townships were trying to make that if it's not installed properly, which is 6 inches behind the curb, there's some standards that you wouldn't be liable, but the fact is you are. If you hit it, you're liable. You're not liable by Ohio Revised Code. And I don't remember if he cited a statute or if it was how the liability was. I can pull that information out if someone's interested, but if it is a snow function, it's the snow that came off of the snow plow, the township is not liable. As a policy, since I've been here, if we could do something about it, we've helped out when we can, with the exceptions of that mailbox just wasn't going to withstand winter, let alone the snow that hit it on that particular day at that particular time.
Because we've just had a policy where we've been, as a courtesy.
Right.
But if we're not, because we've been talking as cost-saving measures in our township, if legally, we're just doing that as a courtesy, but legally, financially, fiscally, and responsibly, we aren't responsible for that. And if somebody has properly installed their mailbox and properly maintained their mailbox, the snow being plowed isn't going to knock the mailbox over.
In most instances, that's correct. We have had some snow, like the 9-inch snow that we had this year. You can get literally a 4-foot boulder that comes rolling off of that, and depending upon how they've plowed their driveway, how they've kind of ramped up to that, and how wet it is or where it comes off the plow. There's some stuff that flies off the plow that can be pretty rough, even on a stable mailbox. We've tried to do the best we can, but like I mentioned before, we have some neighborhoods that have $400 to $500 mailboxes, and we have a neighborhood that has $900 mailboxes. And they're metal, they're rusting, they're not all in the best of shape, and we're starting to question, is that the best way to be spending taxpayer dollars to replacing mailboxes, and do we want to look at a set limit?
I was asking if 0 would be that set limit, because if we aren't legally obligated to do it, and it's the homeowner's responsibility.
Well, we would legally be obligated to do it if it's our fault.
Right.
We're talking about if they get knocked over from snow because they're weak and are falling apart.
We had several in Oak Creek East today that I looked at as I was going through, and there were a couple of repairmen putting those in at the homeowner's request. And I actually stopped. I didn't know if there were actually township people and actually required of that.
Mr. Quigley, Ms. Knapp, would you be willing to allow Ms. Hugh to come up with kind of a policy that we can review at the next meeting and possibly a resolution to go with this?
Well, I don't really see the necessity for having this policy at all. I see that three maybe townships out of Delaware County, 18 townships actually have any kind of thing in place. And I know we've had a really big snow this year.
I don't know if those are the only ones that have been replaced. Those are the only ones that responded to the email.
Did you email all 18 townships?
I didn't. I didn't send out an email. There was someone else at the same time that was researching this, and we just responded saying, hey, we'd love to get a copy of those responses.
Because a lot of these, some of them are more urban, but some of them look more like smaller townships, the ones that did respond. And I mean, we've had a big snow this year, and it's kind of extraordinary circumstances. I mean, how many mailboxes did we have to replace that were hit by snow or repair this year?
I've not counted them individually. Once we repair them, they get taken off the list.
What about last year?
We replaced mailboxes last year, and we didn't have very much snow last year.
Do you know how many there were?
I don't.
What about the year
Once
before?
they're repaired, they're taken off the list, and we don't track what mailboxes we've replaced.
What about the year before? Do you have any statistics on how often we've been doing this?
No.
Well, I don't see it being a problem, and I think that if we do damage to mailbox, I mean, maybe we're not legally obligated, but it'd be pretty easy. I mean, I guess if we said, hey, this is an old mailbox, it was rusting, we're going to replace it with a $50 one, and the homeowner doesn't like it, they could sue us. But I think if someone has a nicer mailbox that somehow gets damaged, that I think that we should do our best to try to repair it. I just think that it's not, I hate to put more rules in place.
We also have a responsibility though to the residents that do maintain it, that they shouldn't have to pay their tax dollars to replace the mailboxes that are getting knocked over because they're not maintained. It kind of goes both ways.
Right, but we wouldn't replace the ones if they're rusting or falling apart. It'd be pretty easy to.
That's a subjective analysis, and law in writing isn't subjective. The policy in writing is not subjective.
This is a subjective policy, actually, because you're just.
That's what the problem is. That's why we're asking for a policy.
It's a subjective policy as it $50, $75, and what does that even mean? That's completely random. We don't even have any statistics on how often it's been a problem. And I don't know why we're putting more rules into place.
Because we're spending money.
We're not spending money. I don't have any evidence of spending money at all.
One of the concerns you brought up last time was that there's some mailboxes out there that are very expensive.
Yes.
And what you're trying to do is put limits on that so that there is some type of threshold to say, yes, we'll work with you, but only up to this point.
Right.
Because you're not willing to go out and drop $800 on some of those mailboxes that you've identified that are expensive in some of those areas.
Has that ever happened? Wait, what's the most expensive
I
mailbox?
have right now that someone's requesting a replacement of a Wilshire mailbox.
How much was that?
Between $400 and $500.
And you got hit with snow?
It's not in very good shape, it's rusted out, and we've gone to the HOA. The HOA discussed replacing them, and they decided they don't want to replace them either.
But that's more like, I mean, if there's an issue where something is damaged that was already it's a lower value because it's older, in any situation you wouldn't replace the whole thing. You'd come up with like, we're going to pay for half of it or something. I just think that this is a one-size-fits-all policy, and I think there are different circumstances that need to be looked at.
We have Genoa, Liberty, Violet, all very large townships. I think Hamilton is quite large too. This is just what we know of. There definitely seems to be a trend.
Well, I don't know if it's a trend or not. It's just there's just a few townships listed on here, maybe a couple dozen.
I think it comes down to is being able to respond to the residents in a quick fashion, stating that we have a policy in place and this is the amount we're able to provide to replace it, and not have to go through this process where it might be coming to the board every single time and saying, are we going to pay $500 this time, or $400 this time, or $300 this time? Because that's pretty much what you're looking for, is some direction.
And it's looking for, basically the only change I'm asking for in how we've been handling the mailboxes is one, that the policy that we've been following in-house from the maintenance department, that it be put in writing. I really like the Liberty resolution and the Liberty policy because it specifically states no rotted wood or rusted metal, sturdy and stable post and mailbox, no loose or missing hinges, bolts, or screws. And that would right away, that the mailbox at Wilshire does not meet that. So it leaves it so loose for us because then the argument is, well, it wasn't really my fault, it was your fault. But if I've got it in writing, I can show them the resolution, I can show them the policy. We don't get very many arguments, very many challenges to it. We'll go out and meet with them, we'll tell them how we evaluated it and why we evaluated it.
It gives you something to work with.
It gives me something concrete, and for these really expensive and custom mailboxes, it gives, in my opinion, fairness across the board, as we're not going to spend $900 on a mailbox.
So who's saying that the mailbox is worth $400 or $500? Is that what the homeowner is saying?
We've priced them these now.
And you knew
we
one?
We bought a Wilshire because we hit one 2 or 3 years ago with a truck.
Right.
We don't think we actually hit it. We think it was a contractor, but there was clearly visual truck damage. The neighbor said he saw the snowplow driver hit it.
So insurance
Disagreed,
took care
but
of
we
that?
couldn't, it was $500.
Deductible. It's under the deductible.
Did insurance take care of it, or we did?
We took care of it, it didn't meet the deductible.
Right, but if you have a car that's used and it used to be worth $8,000 or $10,000, it's worth $4,000 if it's used, it's never, I wouldn't, if I was a homeowner and someone knocked my mailbox over, and it was 12 years old, I certainly wouldn't expect it to be replaced for $500. It would be more of a fair market value, and I mean, I just think.
But not everyone thinks that way, so by having something concrete that she can work with, that
Well,
would
I can't
help
acquire
her.
used mailboxes either. I can either get a new one or I don't get any.
I just think that I haven't really seen it being a problem in the past, maybe once, I guess, in the last 15 years. So.
This history has a, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Robertson?
I'm just thinking over the past.
State your name.
Mark Robertson, 5797 Cat Street. I'm just thinking over the years with this, you know, Dick Ray rebuilt a lot of mailboxes, so that you don't know about. That took place, and things like that took place. We did have a lot of expensive mailboxes out here. They are all regulated by the deed restrictor of the homeowners association. I think in the shores ours, or we have to do a cedar craft to buy ours. I think they're around $2, $2.25. But I guess
we can do them for $100.
As long as they're done, but you know, that's neither here nor there. I guess my feelings are about the whole thing, the fairness. If you guys hit one, I'd like to see them hit probably a $150 cap put on the whole thing. And I know that doesn't take care of everybody, but I think that's fair across the board because there's so many neighborhoods and, you know, it's one neighborhood, it just takes care of it. And I know they go down on a regular basis every winter, but I don't think we can afford to pay or should afford to pay $800, $900.
But then what do you do, and I mentioned this at the last meeting, if someone had a $50 mailbox, and then do they get a $150 mailbox?
No, they do
replace light with light.
It's a cap of 100.
So who determines the value of the mailbox? Just go out and buy whatever mailbox you want, or?
We typically would buy something that's available at a local home.
That fits the deed restriction.
Home Depot or Menards, and or we have purchased the cedar craft mailboxes, which is similar to what's in Mr. Robertson's neighborhood and in other neighborhoods. There are a lot of these in the township.
So you replace them with the same, everybody would get the same mailbox, is what you're saying?
No, if they had something similar to this as a covered mailbox with a metal box inside, this is what they get. If they have a post with just the frame and a box on it, that's what they would get.
How much are those, the simple ones?
I think we can do those for $50 or less.
And so who would determine which mailbox they got? You would?
What's laying on the ground and what's been hit.
Yeah, as Mr. Robertson pointed out, there is deed restrictions on the type of mailboxes. So if there's one at HOA picked out that's $50, you go out and buy the same one for $50. If there's one that's $400, you go out and price that one out and say, we'll give you a check for $150 and leave it at that. And that's basically what you're doing. You're buying, in most cases, the exact same mailbox that's in the neighborhood.
Right. I mean, for the most part, a lot of the complaint that I get is that they don't have anybody to actually install it. They don't care about paying for it or not. They're looking to find a contractor that can install it. So even after I tell them it's their responsibility, not the township's responsibility, they'll ask me if I can install it. And the township can't. That's a private install. They have to take care of that. So
wait, if it's not down or if it's just damaged?
Deemed their responsibility, they have to take care of it. They can't go out and buy a mailbox and the township install it.
So if we buy a mailbox for them, they'll still have to install it, whether or not we actually knock it down or just damage it either way?
We would deem that it's the township's responsibility because it didn't have rotted wood, it was on a stable post, it didn't have missing or rusted hinges, and the township was going to replace it. We would purchase the materials and we would install it up to the $150 example of the cedar craft. If they didn't want that Cedar Craft, they had restrictions that said it has to be a metal mailbox and it had to be purchased from Capital Lighting, one of the suppliers for the larger metal ones. They would get.
Beth, you're talking about two different issues. You were talking about if the snow would hit one, you have a cap cover. Now, if the truck would hit it,
that's a given. That's
right.
done. We replace that 100%.
Right.
And
yeah.
that's actually, I'm not requesting anything about that. That's just information.
Do we install it, right, and that's what was confusing. We install it if the insurance covers it, and then the maintenance department will install it?
We don't turn them into insurance. They don't meet the deductible. So we install it.
Oh, so you install them if insurance covers it?
If it's deemed the township's responsibility, whether because we hit it and it's our liability, or the snow hit it and we're just trying to follow the policy that it should have or could have or maybe have withstood the snow, that there were no visible defects to it when we got to examine it, and the township offers to take care of the damage, we install it, we fix it, we do whatever we need to. In some instances, it's just going back and sticking a screw in it, and we do that. If that's all that needs to be done, we don't even argue whether it was in enough shape to withstand the box being flown off.
But when is it that you don't install it? You were just saying the township.
We had one down on Enterprise. Actually, I think I might have a picture of it. They weed whacked around the bottom of it to where it was just a couple of it was less than an inch. They had weed whacked all of this. This is the base of the post. This is what was left. So when the snow hit it, it snapped. We told them it's not our responsibility. You'll need to replace your own mailbox. End of discussion.
But I'm just trying to figure out the criteria. You're saying that we install it certain times, and what's the criteria for not installing it? Because if you're going to draft a resolution, you're going to want these details
I'm looking for the same details that are in the Liberty resolution. No rotted wood or rusted metal, sturdy and stable post and mailbox, no loose or missing hinges, bolts, or screws.
Right, but it doesn't mention in here when would you be installing the mailbox? What are the criteria where the maintenance department would install a mailbox?
When we go out and examine it, and it was knocked down, but there was no rotted wood or rusted metal, sturdy and stable post and mailbox existed, and there was no loose or missing hinges, bolts, or screws.
So you would add to this language that the maintenance department will install that mailbox? Because that language is not.
That language is the Liberty policy that was shared with the trustees in that resolution when we first started to talk about the mailboxes.
I mean, if you're looking for guidance in writing something for us to approve, then you're going to want to make sure you have all the details in there. But a minute ago you said that there's sometimes we do not install mailboxes. That's just
if we would go out and there was rotted wood or rusted metal on it, we would say it's not our responsibility. It's the homeowners, and they would have to install it.
And we don't buy a new one either. Okay, so you're using installation as being replacement and installation. I thought you were just saying installation.
Mr. Quigley, are you okay with her moving forward with coming up with some language for us to review at the next meeting?
I am.
The resolution? I'm okay with that also.
Yeah, the $150 is probably the most we should go.
Moving forward to street sweeping, please.
We've gone ahead and scheduled street sweeping. It will be the end of April, beginning of May, weather dependent. We're looking at 2 times again this year like we've done in the past. It has gone up just a little bit. It was $5,300 each time before. It's $5,450 this year.
Any questions?
Some of that extra is the grit we used. It was necessary.
Make a motion to authorize the issuance of a purchase order to Sweep Salot, Inc. in the amount of $5,450 for spring and street cleaning.
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Discussion regarding improvements on Dale Canyon Road.
We've met in the county engineer's office, has done their initial feasibility study that looks at different designs that can be used. We've looked at both a shoulder situation where we would have a roadside ditch that requires more right-of-way, or a curb which would match the two roundabouts, the existing roundabout at Orange or the roundabout that is going in at Lewis Center. The county has recommended a curb and gutter section. It requires less right-of-way, less ground, and I would like to move forward with that direction with the county. It's probably less land cost, but more construction costs, but less ongoing maintenance from berming standpoint when someone runs off a berm or keeping the open drains, roadside ditches open. But when we would have to resurface a curb road, you have to mill it before you can resurface it so that the curb matches in the drain pan.
I think you're explaining to me the other day that it's safer.
I like the curb section with the trail next to it. It just gives the impression that, you know, that 6-inch curb would stop a car that's someone's not paying attention before it would jump the curb, as opposed to someone that would not paying attention run off the side of the road.
Right. Any questions, thoughts?
Did he give you any idea of cost difference?
I do have some costs, and these are very initial. These are based off of the initial county estimates. Curb and gutter section land acquisition is estimated at $112,325, and the treated shoulder is estimated at $133,966. It's a $21,641 difference. Construction costs is $1,472,759 for the curb and gutter, $1,372,569 for treated shoulder. That's a $100,189 difference. And the design fee is a little higher for the curb and gutter section as well. That'll take under drains and drain pipe, storm drain to handle that.
I'd like to move forward with the curb and gutter now. Curb and gutter. Are you all okay with that? Yes. Discussion regarding on-road improvements.
This started out as an FYI. Tom Fairhay from the zoning department has become involved as well. The North Farms that was recently zoned has been sold with the south side being split from Don Kenny, and I believe it's to Rockford Homes. And they're looking, I had gotten a call from the Delaware County Engineer's Office saying that because they had lot split that and we're only developing the south half, the Delaware County Engineer's Office can only require them to do road improvements in front of that frontage that they're platting. They've sold off phase 1 and phase 3. However, Tom Fairhay and I have been discussing, and Tom has sent several emails to the Delaware County Engineer's Office stating that he will require them to follow the plat because it was approved with phase 1 and phase 2 being along North Road specifically for the road improvements. I've not heard back from either the developer or the engineer's office. This was more of an FYI to the trustees. The request was to be able to bond that section of the south side of North Road. And the question posed to me by the engineer's office was how long do we want them to bond it? My first response was 1 day because you really need to build both of them. It's a safety issue to have one section, have the narrow North Road, get improvements be made, and then narrow back again before you get to Shanahan. So I think with Tom's help and the zoning, I don't know if Mr. McCarthy is aware of this, if he has any comments, but it looks like that with the zoning, they'll have to plat at least phase 2 of this in order for Tom to sign the plats and move forward. So that should alleviate the issue. Just kind of an FYI, if anybody has any questions, I'll try to answer.
I don't have any questions, do you? Okay, moving on to the park report. Execute the beverage contract.
Yes.
Assuming the Pepsi again was the lowest and responsive bidder?
Yes, we had actually already selected them and had agreed to have me negotiate a contract with them. Pepsi accepted the language and has signed the contract. And so this is just the resolution to authorize the trustees to sign the contract.
Okay. Whereas the board has previously judged Pepsi-Cola Bottling Company of Columbus, Ohio, Pepsi, a division of G&J Pepsi-Cola Bottlers, Inc., to have submitted the most advantageous proposals for the provision of soft drinks, including carbonated and non-carbonated beverages, juices, iced teas, and water on an exclusive basis for a period of 2 years through vending machines at certain park locations and over-the-counter sales at the concession stand of the North Orange Aquatic Center. Authorized entry into a contract with such entity and directed the Maintenance and Parks Director and Township Attorney to prepare a written contract in accordance with the request for proposal issued by the Township and the partnership proposal received from each entity dated January 15, 2014. And whereas a written contract has been presented to the board which is deemed to accurately incorporate such matter, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Township Trustees of Orange Township, Delaware County, Ohio, approves the form of the exclusive agreement for soft drink and water sales as presented to the board and bearing in its footer the identifying version date of 01/18 of 14. Be it further resolved that pursuant to the board's prior action authorizing entry into such an agreement with Pepsi, all members of the board should execute the agreement on behalf of the board.
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
And authorizing Ms. Johnson to help with the Parks Facebook page?
Yes, with the events coming up, I think it's most advantageous to, since she's been participating in Facebook as well as Ms. Mazziola, that we spread the love.
Okay. Everybody okay? Make a motion to authorize Teresa Johnson, an Orange Township Community Park Board volunteer member, to make Facebook posts as an administrator to the Facebook page. Second.
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Contract discussion and signature for Walkerwood Playground.
The Walkerwood Playground went out to bid, and I'll turn this over to Mr. Overturf in a second. Just to recap, when we did the options and the information with David Williams and Associates, our initial price for the option that we had taken for the school to vote on was $79,671.42, and the U.S. Community's competitive bid pricing was $78,646.66. The bids did not come in anywhere close to that. And I'll turn it over to Scott.
We had two bidders on this particular project. The project was based on Miracle Playground equipment, which is the base equipment we use on virtually all our parks. The bidders came in. OPC contracting was $87,974, and their product was Game Time, and the low was Play World, which was $87,460, and their product was Play World. Right now, there's 514 difference. Since we had the bids come in on Friday at 1 o'clock, it's necessary that I sit down and interview each of them. I have to go through their product because their product wasn't a spec product. We had a performance spec, so we have to go through the whole project to look to see if either one of them meet the criteria that we set for them. So right now, we're still looking at that. We're going to have to evaluate that, and once we get that evaluation, I'll have to come back to you to figure out if we have a contractor to proceed with the playground. Right now, I'm unable to tell you that.
I didn't understand this correctly. It's coming up out higher than what we originally were planning?
$10,000, almost $9,000 more.
The original was $76,000.
78.
Then why is that? Why is it coming out higher?
Because it costs more. We weren't able to negotiate it. I mean, it's a big world. There's only select two, and you can see that even Miracle didn't even bid the project because there's only very select people around here, and they were too far. The closest Miracle's out in Indianapolis. So. But it was our base product. It is our base product, so we thought that was fair.
So it's not the playground that we wanted?
Pardon?
It's not the playground that we wanted?
The one bid is for game time, which is what I based the estimates on, which is what we worked with for the graphics for the kids to vote on.
Okay.
But part of, in my opinion, part of the lower amount on some of the other numbers was that he knew we were working towards a budget. And I think he was trying to be very competitive. And then the U.S. Communities price is a competitive bid product. There was some indemnification language in the U.S. Communities that we couldn't specifically use that. But it's my understanding that Game Time would allow us to still use the competitively bid price moving forward in purchasing the playground.
The other thing is that when we make our project manual, I'm pretty tough on them all the way through and cover all the bases and whatever, so they have to put money in for making sure that they have the right protection, that they show up on time, that they're done on X, and they have a completion date on X. So they usually put in a little bit more money into those particular things in order to do it.
But we expected, didn't we think Miracle was going to bid?
Yeah, we did. We expected them to bid. But they didn't. We actually expected another Game Time bid, and they didn't. I don't know. I called them to find out, and they just said they didn't get it in.
Because Miracle had the equipment that was on the kids picked out, right?
That was Game Time that had the equipment, but Miracle is our traditional that we've used in virtually all our projects. But we use Game Time over at Glen Oaks.
So we could do it, but it's going to be $8,000 or $9,000 more than what we thought.
Yeah, I can't. In a bid situation this, you can't negotiate the price. You can only look at what they have and if they meet the criteria, and then you go from there. So.
And you did talk to Miracle?
Yeah.
You did, and they aren't
Miracle
interested.
provided us with some of the specifications that went into the bid. Once the bid goes out, we don't talk to anybody unless they have specific bid questions. We don't negotiate, we don't do anything without the bid.
But I called them after I got the bids and I asked them nicely where their bid was. And they said they didn't bid the project, they didn't have personnel in Columbus to be able to do it. So, anyway, that's just an update.
So you're going to review those?
Yeah, I have to review these, and I'll bring them back to you, and I'll either say, yes, I believe we should move forward with this contractor, and that this contractor didn't meet the specifications, so therefore one of the two would be selected, or I'll say neither one were qualified to do it. We need to either go back out for bid or do something else. It's going to be a longer process than I expected.
When will you have that ready by the next meeting?
Oh,
recommendation.
Yeah, I'm going to meet with them tomorrow, and by the end of the week, I should be able to kick somebody out. Okay.
The next item is award contract and authorized signature for architectural services for the community center.
Yeah, this particular project has been going on for years in theory, but the realization of this project came in January when trustees said to go ahead and go out for an RFP for architectural services. We did that. 5 firms turned them in. There were 3 that were shortlisted and we interviewed. They were Myers and Associates, Moody Nolan, and Brandstetter Harris. We interviewed those 3. By statute, we have to rank before we talked about, before we do any negotiation, you have to rank the firms. And so they were ranked by the advisory committee and RFP committee. And the 1 and 2 was Myers and Associate was number 1. They received all first place votes except for 1 second place vote. And then Moody Nolan is number 2. So from the time that came in, and we finished that up at the end of February and partially into March, we started our negotiation with Myers and Associates, and that negotiation, and we just finished that up like on Friday, but it was a real good understanding of what the scope of work is, and we reworked the scope of work. Previous, as you know, when I did something, I already put their contract in, so we don't really spend much time on that except for a few items. What we do is take the scope of work, we see how that fits in the contract that was already in the RFP, we make adjustments to that, we make adjustments, we find out what the costs are, and with the scope of work, we see how that affects the cost, and both Chris Myers, who's back here right now, and myself, and some others sat down, and when we came to negotiations, came to the fact that where we are today, and we have Mr. Myers and the price for Mr. Myers to do the total project, which is, we divided it off in phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 will get us to June 30th with the most detailed possible we could have in both programming and design and information about land selection and everything we need to do to be able to go in front of the voters in November. And there's a price to be able to get to that so the trustees can look at all that data, all that information, all the background, all the design to what we're going to build, what we've done, take all the previous history that we've done with feasibility studies and surveys and et cetera, and put all that together and finally present, this is the community center that we want to build. This is what covers the community's needs. We're going to go out to the public again just to make sure that we've covered everything we need, and then it will be up to you all to decide whether we're going to go forward with whatever the price is going to be. We'll find either our partnerships or however the funding is going to be. We have a financial committee to do that, and then we'll present that to you, and you decide whether you want to go forward with this and put it on the ballot for the bonding, or you don't. And if you decide, then the architect basically will be doing still some work till that phase, which phase 2 starts on November 5th. Once the election, if it is approved, then he'll proceed with phase 2 of his contract, which is the construction drawings and all the construction of the project. If it fails, we don't own anything. I mean, we pay phase 1 stuff, and we don't own anything for phase 2. And that's the way the contract was set out. So, the price that for the total project, and I'll give you in relationship to Moody Nolan, was total project was $960,595 for Myers and Associates. Total project for Moody Nolan was $1,113,000 for Moody Nolan. Total project. Now, that breaks down to phase 1 and phase 2. And phase 1, it is $260,250 plus $10,000 for contingency, which makes it $270,250. The phase 2 part of it is $680,345, which gets you to your $965.95, which also includes $10,000 for reimbursable. Bottom line is it's $960,595. Bottom line for Moving Home is $1,113,000. And that included what the contingency and the You want to know what the average is for a project like this? We haven't based it on a $17 million project. The average percent for architectural fees is between 7.7 and 8%. Myers and Associate was 5.6%, and Moving Nolan was 6.6%. A couple of things that I may just bring up, and then what I'd like is Chris Myers to say something, if that'd be okay. And this is just some general thoughts I have. You only get a chance once to have an impact in a community. This community center will have the greatest impact to Orange Township than any other building here. It will finally have a place that the community can count as their town center, their home, the center of where the activities can be, a place that we can hold events, a place that people can meet, a place that things can be built around to create something special. We only have a little bit of time. We have 5 pieces of land that we're going to review. Those pieces of land within the next 2 years, we may have one of those pieces of land left. We won't have another chance like we have right now. We have the chance right now, but we have to do it right now in order to move forward. The other items, and I've just generally ran them down, is if you look at our community now, without a town center, there are just kind of a bunch of homeowner associations. We've done a lot in a long time and spent a lot of money on our due diligence. We've done surveys, and they've all come positive into it. We've had a feasibility study, and it came positive. We reviewed all those particular things. We've provided all the information. We've taken in all the information, and I believe by going forward with Chris Myers and company, that we're going to be in good hands. Mr. Myers lives in the township. He has family in the township. He's worked for the township. They've done OYA stuff, so he's very familiar. This is his home. Mr. Myers' company is one of the top 50 young companies in the nation as design, as a coming up firm. So we feel really good in the selection of his company. We also feel good with the team that we're dealing with. We're dealing with the team that has worked on some of this project before. They know the land, they know the feasibility study, they understand the community. This was a well-rounded team, and I think they'll provide you services. So let me have Mr. Myers speak, and then if you have questions for me, I won't spend much time.
Thanks, John. I had all these wonderful things to say, but Scott basically just covered everything. So certainly we're very excited to be working with the township again. As Scott mentioned, our overall project team is it's a continuation of the group that developed the feasibility study, and many of us also worked on the township master plan. We have an enormous amount of experience when it comes to buildings like this, buildings for communities, buildings for recreation, park, aquatics. This is a really good fit. So we're very grateful for the opportunity. Look forward to working with you and really engaging the community and making this a project that we certainly all can be very proud of. So certainly if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them. But like I said, Scott covered the whole marketing speech.
The only one thing I didn't cover is that I'm the worst person in the world about social media. I mean, I don't like pressing buttons, just call me. They're very good, and what we're able to present to the community is going to be far greater than we're ever to do. We're going to be able to present what this building looks like. We're going to be able to buzz around with their little camera things and see what it looks like from all angles, get a feel for the building, also be on an active website in order to always have something there for the community to look at. So
That's kind of exciting.
it is, it's really exciting. This is very important. In front of you, I have a contract that I have from Mr. Myers and that contract, you'll see that we've covered. That's the exact same contract that was in the RFP. And then behind the contract, you'll see that I have Exhibit A that covers the scope of work that was discussed and may affect the contract in a couple areas or clarify it. And then after that, I also have the contractors' wage costs for their principals, senior architects, project managers. Any questions?
No, you did a great job of presenting it out, providing information for us to review.
I'd just like to make a comment on the clarification of the timetable. The June 30th deadline is to allow the board enough time in July to come up with the ballot language to have it on for 90 days prior to November. And then we have that time to educate the public on what they're voting on.
It just seems like a very short amount of time to do all that.
We negotiated city there. That's all I know.
And we're looking at partnering with another community or meaning.
We're looking to partner with anybody that's got money. Anybody that can help us, yes.
We've already sent out.
Or services or groups.
We've talked with a few that feel it might be advantageous to partner with us. You know, we have a financial committee that's going to start now and come in and bring in particular information from their financial world and who else we could touch base with and who else could partner with us and who else could lease or not lease or whatever those rules are, particular thing. We're always looking for ways that we can save the township money and partner with the community. That's very important to us.
Yeah, the city of Delaware did that with the Y, and it's been very successful and popular. So.
Any additional questions from the board?
Are the funds for this going to come out of the parks fund then? Is that correct?
The funds for phase one is going to come out of the park budget. The total funds will come out of the bond if we proceed on that, and that will pay back funds from the park levy if we get a yes vote to go on.
Well, we've already made a commitment to move forward and get this on the ballot. I know that's what the board talked about in the past, of taking this and focusing on it and seeing what the public wants. So if this is a step we need to take, let's do it.
Give an opportunity for the residents to make that decision.
Make the decision.
May I say something?
Yes.
It's been kind of my baby for the last 10 years. I'm a big component of this whole thing. But, in my absence from that table up there, I want to thank the board for hiring pros consultants a year and a half ago. You really hired a top-notch professional team to do what they did. And then Chris came to us this time, and thank you very much for even bringing this to get us going again this spring. Chris came to us with his group, and here's a group that had foresight to put together the people who we've already worked with to some extent, and people who know this area, which is going to be a huge benefit to us in purchasing property and some things like that that are going to be taking place. So we have a wonderful, wonderful team here in place. It was really a no-brainer, and somebody's not too high to recommend Chris's firm for this project. We're at this point where I've asked several times, it's time that goes to the voters. The voters always say they want it, or at least a large majority of the ones that I guess to be sustained, the ones who replied and showed interest in the township, they've come back in a positive way with this project. We'll find out in November. If that's the case, I hope it is the case. But I think everything we put together, pros consulting, and we had a discussion with Chris's group. You know, we've asked about it, this be a sustainable project that can pay for itself, with or without a partner. We'd like to find a partner out there, and I'm pretty sure we'll find a partner. We have some very interested people out there that I know have some money that are doing these kind of things throughout the area. So I think in the end, we'll have a very wonderful place for this community, and will finally give us something that really makes us Lewis Center Orange Township. It's just time that happened. 25,000 people out here, and nothing really to hang our hats on. So I thank the board for doing everything they've done, and I look forward to success in this whole thing.
Right, I agree that we have a lack of a community base or an identity, and if this were to pass, if the residents wanted, it would help us have an identity and a place to gather, like Scott was saying. So I think it would be great.
Okay, why don't we move to the office topic now?
Well, no, there's a resolution.
Whereas on January 21st, 2014, the Board of Trustees authorized advertising for requests for proposal for design and construction, contract administration services related to an Orange Township Community Center. Whereas the Township duly advertises requests for proposals from qualified design firms and receives statements of interest for qualifications from various firms. Whereas Township personnel, including the construction consultant, analyzed the proposals and conducted interviews of the top candidates. And whereas, as a result of the evaluation and interview process and subsequent contract negotiation with the top candidate in accordance with RC 153.69, the Township staff and construction consultant recommended the approval of Myers & Associates Architecture, LLC of Columbus, Ohio, for award of the contract, with whom the staff and the construction consultant have negotiated a firm price within the Township's proposed budget for such services. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of Orange Township, the contract for the Orange Township Community Center Design and Construction Contract Administration is hereby awarded to Myers & Associates Architecture, LLC, and representatives of the trustees are authorized to sign the form of contract as prepared by legal counsel for the Township for a fee of $964,595, including contingency and reimbursable expense allowances. Be it further resolved that Debbie Taranto may execute such agreement on behalf of the board. The fiscal officer is requested to append a certificate in accordance with RC 5705.41D.
Second.
Before I take a vote, I know Mr. Overturk doesn't like this, and Mr. Robertson spoke on this a number of years ago, but some other townships and municipalities called me and asked me what we do with our owner's rep and how much that costs us. And he's about 3 times cheaper than other people are paying for the same services for what he does, so thank you.
You did a great job.
Angie looked great tonight.
I need to look at my contract. Who are those people?
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
I
Ms. Knapp?
seconded it. I seconded it. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, the next one I'm here anyway. Republic Builders.
Thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda is the pay application for Republic Builders. This is for Walker Woods. For Walker Woods, what? Walker Woods, for the construction department of Walker Woods.
I make a motion to authorize the release of payment to Republic Builders, LLC for pay request number 1 in the amount of $16,938 for phase 2 graphics away trail.
Second.
Ms. Tarant?
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
I apologize, it's not Walker Woods, it's graphics wheel. I'm looking at the agenda, moving down.
And I make a motion to authorize the issuance of a purchase order to Myers & Associates Architecture in the amount of $270,250 for phase 1 community center.
Second.
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
There is no proposal for Walker Woods, so we can remove that then. This discussion for North Orange, North Road proposals. Casto had provided us with a proposal for the North Orange property that we were going to talk about at the park board last Wednesday. However, with some discussions with Mr. McCarthy, we felt that it was better for the trustees to weigh in. The North Road property the North Orange property still has some issues with the property that is dealing with the hotel. And Mr. McCarthy and I had a discussion about what is the township's involvement in even discussing land proposals until that's resolved. Mr. McCarthy, if you have anything to add or comments on that, so don't mean to.
No, I've talked to each of the trustees separately, and there is an issue given the fact that there is an active litigation concerning a portion, some of the better portion, I suspect, of this property. And for that reason, to get into that situation, it would be, if you were to take the title, you'd be taking the title subject to whatever decision comes out in that lawsuit, which we can't know right now. So I think that's a factor that needs to be considered seriously by the board.
Yeah, so basically, I think it would be a waste to pursue that, or having discussions about that right now.
Correct.
Until the lawsuit has been concluded.
I'm going to say something real quick.
Yeah, I was going to say, Justin Bird from Casto's here.
Yeah. Just real quick, my client, there are several options on the table. I'm Justin Bird, 250 Civic Center Drive. There are several options on the table for resolving that, one of which is settlement. We could certainly look at settling that case out of court, and that is an option that's been presented to us. I think all we're interested in is, if this is an option that the township would be interested in, is parkland swap. My client is interested in deeding approximately 22 acres at North Orange, which would basically expand your current park to include all that acreage. He would also, the plans that I showed Beth included 6 soccer fields, a baseball diamond, parking area, maybe even a small community center or picnic area. My client's actually interested in building those things for the township and then deeding it to them. He would be interested in no compensation for that. And all this would just be to consider the swap of the North Road Park piece. So I did want to bring that up. I mean, it's something that he's very interested in doing. He could start very quickly, even as early as fall. He would make all the improvements, deed that to the township, and there would be no sort of lien or encumbrance on the property whatsoever. So I just want to bring that up and make sure that's clear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just so I have some direction, my understanding is until that's either settled or resolved, that the township doesn't want to look at any proposals or anything until that has been resolved.
I don't think we really can at this point until that's resolved.
Right. I don't understand what Mr. Bird was saying. He was saying it could be settled out of court.
Certainly.
You mean with the Mr.
Ranger?
Yes.
Yeah, I think there's 3 options on the table right now that my client's weighing. One is to do the deal with the hotel. The other is to wait for a summary judgment, which has been on the table for approximately 9 months. And the other is to settle out of court. And I'm not an attorney, but I think those are the 3 options that have been presented. I think all we're looking to do is just get some interest from the township. If this is not an interest at all, certainly we'll go away and we'll never speak one more thing of it. If this is of interest, I think we'd just like to work with the township in developing a park that they like, that they really want to do, and we could act as quickly as you guys would let us, quite frankly.
Right, but we would have to wait until one of those 3 situations happen. But what you're saying is it could be resolved sooner than we think.
Absolutely,
between the parties. Okay.
My client doesn't want to spend money on litigation until we get some interest from the township. So if there's no interest, we'll go away and we'll just let the cards fall. If there is interest, I think we'd at least like to present it to the park board and see if this is something that would be should be pursued further.
Right. Are we allowed to have this discussions with Cass, it was one, I think, about the property, even though it's.
Well, we can have, one point was, if you take title, you're gonna take title subject to the resolution of the lawsuit. You can talk to anybody you want. You can talk to North Orange, you can talk to Mr. Kranjak, you can talk to Beth. I mean, yeah, there's nothing on that.
And we didn't think that we would be able to deed the property to the township until all that was resolved anyway, so we didn't think that it would put you in a tight spot.
Also, to be fair to Mr. Bird and Casto, I think we also need to decide is, are we truly interested in this piece and what they're offering? Because our biggest concern is the safety. It's the power lines.
We do have some concern about the power lines.
They're not just typical power lines.
Some drainage and things, but the park board hasn't discussed it. And we've not looked at the proposal because there was some concern that since there is ongoing litigation, the town didn't want to seem like it was inserting themselves into that ongoing litigation by having discussions regarding the property.
Right, and I think that's our call before it even goes to the park board, as well as the safety concerns is our call before it goes to the park board.
Well, is it possible for us, because I think we did discuss it briefly at a park board meeting, and we discussed something really kind of vague. Could Mr. Bird bring in some plans and present them to the trustees at a meeting?
I actually have a plan in my car. I just thought that this was just a meeting just to see if it could be presented again to the park board. Certainly happy to give you the plan that I have, though.
I would say, I mean, from my viewpoint, we've been looking at the park board as an extension of helping us develop the parks. And as Mr. McCarthy said, there's no reason why we can't have those discussions. And I think the park board's input would be valuable to let them look at those new plans and see if it's still an option from that standpoint. That's the way I look at it. I think it should go back in front of the park board. I know there's some safety concerns, and those are things that the park board needs to get together and discuss and say, is this going to be a safety problem, is it not? Put that together and then present it to the trustees to see if that's a decision we want to move forward.
Right, the parks board is wait for 2 more months, so that would put a further delay on it. But we wouldn't be making decisions.
That might also resolve some issues.
Beth, I think if I remember, you also had some concerns about just being too close to litigation. That we might be perceived as having
that was the discussion that we had.
Some form of
and that was the point of pulling it from the park board and bringing it to the trustees. If the trustees wanted to pursue reviewing it in the midst of that litigation. And that's why it didn't go to the park board. It came to the trustees to see whether you want to do that while the litigation is still pending.
No, we can't do that, but what Ms. Bird was saying is that it's possible that the property owner's decision would, what we were interested in would have some bearing on that, is what he was saying. So time would be
the board would need to decide that we're going to enter into taking this to the park board and having discussions while they are in litigation.
Right, which we can choose to do, but I think Ms. Toronto was saying that you come before the trustees if we wanted to do first, just to take a look at it. And I mean, I wouldn't want to wait 2 more months till it went in front of the parks board, or we could have a special meeting.
Well, reading Mass Law, Park Board, 2917 Moore Place, we did review the first, we had a long conversation, we came to the meeting for the first set of drawings, and we voted against moving forward with that. It's my understanding now there's second drawings, and we have not seen those at all yet because it was pulled. However, I got more information about what they're also willing to do, and I think it would be our due diligence to take a peek to see now with the potential shelter and them paying to put all the stuff on there. We haven't seen those plans, and I don't want to speak for my other park board members, but we could probably try to meet before the 2 months so that we could, if you guys are on a timeline, to take a peek at those. I mean, we could get 3 or 4 of us here to look at those and make some recommendations.
Yeah, because I want Mr. Bird, I mean, 2 more months, if he's in the middle of litigation, that could be a big, yeah, not that we have to meet early, but we might as well get it done early.
I would suggest that when we've talked about the items that Castro will provide, that they make sure that we have a list of those so when we go through this, they're going to pay for the road, they're going to pay for the parking lot, they're going to pay for the secondary road, they're going to pay for the restrooms, they're going to pay for whatever it is that they are, so it will be clear to the park board that they know exactly what they're getting. Also, in due diligence, that we may have to look at this between the two properties there, and how's that handled? Also, there's some wetlands down there that need to be looked at, and how does that handle? And I don't know about the layouts, I don't know much about the project, just to make sure that the layouts would fit on there. There's more than just looking at a drawing and saying this looks cute. The fact of the matter is it doesn't work for everybody.
Well, I was going to suggest that you could maybe take a look and give us your recommendation right
Well,
on that.
I think based upon the conversation I've had with Mr. McCarthy, that we're jumping ahead of ourselves. That it was brought to the board this evening to make the determination of whether we're going to move forward because of the litigation or not. I mean, we've got the steps in place to take it to the park board and review it and come back and have those discussions. The question though is, do we have those discussions because of the pending litigation, or do we not? And that needs to be a board decision.
Yeah, I think, I don't have a problem looking at it during, so there's pending litigation. I don't think there's anything illegal or unethical about doing this.
Well, I think it just needs to be made clear that these discussions are premised on being effective solely and only after this current litigation is resolved.
Right, that we're not circumventing. Right, so then what would
I think with that on the record, then the board wants us to take it to the park board, so I should try to schedule a special meeting.
Yes.
And will Mr. Overturf review, so Mr. Bird will provide some renderings, and then Mr. Overturf can review them for those, because you want to make sure you're comparing apples to apples, and obviously, probably know the trustees.
Sure, I have a writing.
The current proposal is different than the previous one and does include some construction. So, I mean, I do think it's worthy of reviewing by the board. I just wanted to make sure that the board was aware that we were pursuing this in the midst of the litigation. Okay. All right. Last item under park board is the pool calendar. And I have shared this with Hastings. This shows swim lessons as well as barbecue night, swim night, the hog roast, and I believe movie in the park and music in the park is on their policy as well.
I just have a question, because I'm not familiar. I know that when school starts, you start with the afternoon to evening hours. Has it ever been toddlers, preschoolers, preschools?
We've never done it. I've heard a couple of people ask.
I mean, have we thought about maybe twice a week, or, open it up from 11 to 8:30, or, I'm just...
My gut feeling on that is if you're not going to do it every day, it's not consistent enough for people to know that it's open. They miss it if it's only 2 days a week.
I mean, we're starting 4:30 on August 13th.
I've had a lot of input.
Well, and I was going to say
that have wanted to go during the day. And once the big kids are in school, that'd be so fun to come there and preschoolers and babies. And
I've actually had moms say that the kids are out of the house and they can go to the pool.
Right. And that's something that I can definitely talk to Hastings about. That wasn't in the contract. That's not the hours that they bid on. But I can talk to them about, do we want to go, let's see, the first day of school is the 13th. So that would be a little more than 2 weeks of weekdays. Should I talk to them about some pricing to look at doing that? And, I think if we advertise it all summer long and keep it on the website and people know about it and they're anticipating it, it makes sense.
We could even try it, see how it goes.
Yeah.
Does a contract have them shutting it down? I mean, opening at 4:30, starting at that point?
yeah, that's what she's saying. She's going to go back and ask if there's an option.
When school starts and the kids go back to school, the pool opens at 4:30. It's not open during the day.
But it'll be really hot for it's almost 3 weeks until Labor Day. Labor Day's really early this year. It's on September 3rd.
But let's, because we're not really sure how much this is going to affect our price structure.
Right.
And if we could look at that, it would be interesting. And still, just throw it out there, not necessarily the whole week, but maybe every other day or twice a week or something, an
Or
option.
opening it at noon or 1 o'clock instead of 11.
They might have a recommendation too, since they're pool professionals. They might say, hey, it's really busy, or we'd be busy on Thursday, or we suggest this, or we try this
I
somewhere.
will say the one issue that we will have would be lifeguards, because they go back to college as well.
But they don't go back that early. It's usually September, isn't it?
Some do, some don't. Some go back at the beginning of August and start looking for work at school.
And maybe it's having a limit in the amount of people in the pool that come in, or,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, there's a set, we have to have 5
Right.
lifeguards because of the way the pool's laid out. That's a given. And actually, I think it's
If you
6.
close down, you close down one pool, right, so you only have one open then.
We can close down the second pool. You can't close down the first pool.
Right,
And have
that's
the
what I mean.
second one open. Yeah. Yeah, we can do that. That's, the main pool requires 5 lifeguards
Okay.
from a policeman.
Great, thank you, Ms. Yu.
Are we good on the night swims and the barbecue date? Because I'd like to go ahead and start publishing those. We're going to put this on. It's,
Goes wrong.
I just switched it, like a 1-day difference with the calendar update, so.
So the pool will open on the, let's see, the day of, the last day school open at 12:30, which is, that's 2 weeks earlier than last year because of the change in schools. The school's calendar changed, so we'll be opening 2 weeks earlier on those.
And we're opening the Friday
Right,
before
during the
Memorial
day.
Day. And it's 12:30 because the 8th grade class has the party that morning. Any other questions?
Are there any, do you have any concerns about like concessions that during the extra 2-week period where it's going to be colder and maybe not as many people will go there? Do you have any concerns about not making less money this season because the pool's opening earlier and closing earlier?
We could, I'm sure, I mean, there's definitely going to be an impact. There's going to be an impact at the front desk. Less days just means less money to bring in money, but we don't have any control over the school schedule.
Oh, right, that's my question, is whether you have any concern about that. About that. So the night swims will be on every other Friday night?
Yeah, they kind of run every other, with the barbecue on Saturday night.
And are these dates are correct with the harbor, or the movie in the park, right? And the,
Yes, and the rain dates are published in there as well, to make sure that we weren't competing.
I'm fine with that, so that's the calendar.
Okay, thank you.
And just as an FYI update, one of the things that the park board is going to do, Teresa Johnson is, the park board has selected 4 movies, and they're going to put that out as a survey on Facebook to have the public choose. It's between Free Willy, Clouding with a Chance of Meatballs, Lego, and Despicable Me. So choose your favorite and vote.
When does that start? The voting?
As soon as we can get that up on Facebook within the next week or 2.
And how long will the voting go on for?
Yeah, I don't think we're She's still here. I'm not very long. I think I'm going to 2 days. But that may also get us some more likes on Facebook and some more participation and all those kind of things.
Chief Noble?
Good evening.
Well, this will be the 12-month wrap-up, the first year of the collective bargaining agreement. We ran this from March 1st of 2013 to the end of February 28th, 2014. And you can see the, I'll skip everybody ahead to the end here, and you'll see Over that 12 months, savings of $564,568.63 that can be attributed to the collective bargaining agreement.
What was your original estimate?
I'm going to ask that. It was 450,000, somewhere in that neighborhood.
We actually went over by 100,000.
We did. And you know, when we break this down over all of the articles that we negotiated, we saw savings with not replacing 2 full-time firefighters that left our services. So you've got those cost savings involved to the tune of about $173,805. Overtime was the big savings. You see there that in 2012 we were spending $270,000 in overtime, and we drastically reduced that in this period of time to just about $23,000. So we saved $246,919. Uniforms, we had some savings there, not big amounts, but we had some savings. And then we, given the earned day off, saved us in that FLSA overtime to the tune of about $128,000. So, all in all, I firmly believe that the bargaining efforts that we have saved the township. I think it was a good thing that our firefighters came to the table when they did, and the first year proves those savings. And that's great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Fiscal officer report.
I believe the board was provided with a copy of February financials for your review, and I have those to present for your consensus tonight and signature.
Do you have the one for us to sign, or?
Yes, ma'am.
I have consensus.
Yes.
Then now purchase orders for InfoLink.
Yes, ma'am.
And these are actually from December.
Yes, she provided the invoice.
431.
Yep.
I make a motion to authorize the issuance of the then and now purchase order to InfoLink Technologies Inc. in the amount of $4,317 for information technology services.
Second.
Mr. Anto?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes. And discussion regarding shredded services during Earth Week.
We've in the past provided a shredding opportunity to residents, and Shred It, Columbus Services, comes out to provide on-site shredding where the township can shred township records that have been properly disposed of through our records retention policy. And we've in the past allowed residents to stop by with up to 2 boxes of personal papers as well. It's been a relatively successful endeavor for the township as a service provided to township residents at minimal cost. If we just do township records during 1 hour of time or less, that would be $180, and for a minimal cost, $360, we can provide a 2-hour time frame to residents to bring up to 2 personal boxes to be shredded here at 1680 out in the parking lot. And they take care of all disposal, and it's done here on site. And I think in the past, Ms. Messmer, we had quite a few people stop out and take advantage of that.
We do.
I think it'd be a nice service to provide.
And we limit it to 2 boxes because, of course, we don't want businesses coming out and taking advantage of it with mass amounts of paper and clogging it up for personal items that people may want to dispose of.
Good time, I don't know when is Earth Week.
That's the week of April 21st and 25th.
So we don't really have time to like put it in the newsletter or anything
Well,
like that.
Not this newsletter, but we can get it on the newspaper.
Okay.
Newspaper, listserv,
Yeah.
website.
Would you all like to try it this year? See how it goes?
Yeah, I mean, we've done it before.
Yep.
Seems to always work out. So.
I can make a comment, I think it introduces a lot of people to Township Hall Park, they don't realize what's back there.
Yeah. Thank you.
Another motive.
So, you know, we could put a posting on Facebook saying, come see Township Hall Park and, you know, bring your papers to shred while you come play some basketball. I don't know. You know how I am with social media.
Anything else, Mr. Spencer?
Just that, no, nothing else, I'm sorry.
No old business, no new business. Make a motion to go into executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or to the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee or official. Those invited to attend are the board, Ms. Mesmer, Mr. McCarthy, and Chief Noble. Second?
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
How you doing, Brad? Good. Doing great. You need mine? Sir? You need mine?
I make a motion to return to regular session. Second.
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Do we have any other further business?
Yeah, I want to make a motion that the fire chief has conducted an investigation and the trustees into a situation with the fire department, and the trustees have examined his recommendation, and we find that there's no basis for us to pursue the investigation any further.
Second.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Mr. Quigley?
Yes.
Okay, there was no further business. This meeting is adjourned at 9:15.